I had some time to play around with this Speedefy router, and I just want to show you a couple of things. Thought it was pretty interesting. So this is the main page that you get to when you go to the default IP address of the router, which is 3.1, which is interesting because a lot of them are either 0.1 or 1.1. So we'll click on Start. If you're using this as your main router for your network, most connection types from your ISP are dynamic, so you would hit Next. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and skip this because I don't have it hooked up as my core router. I just have it off of my network. So we're going to skip that. We'll do no passwords for today, but normally when you are setting up this own router, you're going to have a password for the Wi-Fi and a different password for the login. Don't use the same passwords for each one of them. Click Next. No password. That's fine. Ignore that. Don't worry about it. So now we're all set. It says we can connect to it. Okay, so we're connected to it. And now we're on the main home page. So we got internet, router. This does beaming, so it connects 5 gigahertz and 2.4 and one network. It determines what best works with your adapter and will either use one of the other or both together to give you a speed boost. So right now, normal internet settings like we had, dynamic IP, everything's set in there. Wi-Fi settings, so there's a bunch of different settings in here. It has beamforming, channel bandwidth. Leave it. Everything should be left at default. Everything works perfectly fine right out of the box. Anti-interference, auto. Like I said, I don't want to touch anything. The one thing that I did play around with was I did look into putting it into AP mode. AP mode is if you just want to use it as an access point rather than your core router. So that I had a little difficulty setting up, and I had to contact the manufacturer because they had a very specific way you had to set it. Basically, the way I just set it up now with no password for the Wi-Fi and no password for the admin login for the unit is what they told me I had to set. So as soon as you do that, you click on AP mode, turn on AP mode, save it, the router will reboot, and it'll automatically grab a DHCP address from your network. So the problem I had is they didn't tell me what that DHCP was, so I had to go into my core router, figure out what IP address was new, and then I was able to get into the unit after that, which worked out pretty well. As with most routers these days, you can set up a guest network where if you have somebody over for a little bit, you can add them if you don't want to give them the main password to your the normal Wi-Fi. Parental controls, this is me here, so if you want to go in there, set up time limits, it does it by MAC address, you can limit web access, just like any normal regular router. You can also have a VPN put in here, which is really nice. You can have it as a server or a client. Which is really nice if you have a core router and you're not at home and you want to run a secure connection from where you are at home. Come in, give yourself a username and password. You can use the Windows default VPN client. You set it up, away you go. Pretty nice and easy. It's a nice feature to have in this router. Nobody's running IPv6 yet, so you don't need that. And then mostly everything in here you're really not going to play around with. Your firewall, leave that all set up and good. App remote management. So this router actually has a app you can put on your phone to manage it rather than using the web browser like I'm using here. You can also set up dynamic DNS from no IP from these guys here. A lot of these guys cost money to keep registered, so I don't normally set that up in my routers. I have a NAS at home that I use that. Virtual servers, these are for passing through your LAN ports if you want to port forward anything from an outside network into inside. This is where you do your port forwarding. They call it virtual server. System settings. Pretty standard. You can change your DHCP reservation. This one, here's my IP. You can set this if you want the IP to be on this computer. Every single time you connect to it, you can lock it in place and bind it to this MAC address. So, system status is good. Tells you everything about your router. Has a log of everything you've done. This will do an automatic update of the firmware, backup and restore. If you ever have a problem with your router and you need to factory default it like I did, if you save the file, you don't have to go through and change all of your settings if you did change anything. Grabs the time from the internet. Go into LAN settings. This is where you can change your pool of what you want it to be. This is going to start at 100. Normally I leave that from 100 to 200 because anything I want to set static I keep below 100. So it's a pretty basic router. Nothing fancy about it except for it does do that beam forming, which is pretty nice. The router I have at home doesn't do that right now. So what I did notice is I run an Archer C7 right now, and that's supposed to be a pretty nice one. So what I did notice is if we do a speed test. Alright, so we'll do a speed test here. I'll show you the difference between what I'm getting on my C7 versus what I get on the Speedefy. So the Speedefy, I'm getting around, 475, 480. I have gigabit service Fios from Verizon. So getting around 40, 475 is great on a wireless connection. Getting 475 down, and it's usually around 300 up. The upload varies quite a bit. So you can see pretty consistent, looking good. So I'm going to change over to my C7 now. Okay, we're all connected to that. Come here and run the same server. And you can see this one doesn't get nearly as much, about 75 meg less. So the Speedefy is definitely faster than the Archer C7 by TP-Link that I have now. You can see right there, getting some good thing. Now you can see the upload is different though. The upload, I'm getting higher speeds on the up. Mostly everybody is using the download. My upload is, I care about that. I use that a lot. So you can see the Archer actually does a little bit better on the upload, but if you're concerned about download, the Speedefy is definitely the way to go. Okay, and we're back at the Speedefy router. As you can see, I had a really nice download speed on the Speedefy compared to what I had now. I do like it. I'm pretty sure it's because of the beam forming that takes the two frequencies and allows you to connect them into one. Overall, it's a pretty good router. I really liked it. It actually had much better coverage than the Archer also. I had the router in my basement for a little while, and I was actually getting a much better signal strength in my upstairs area than what I got when the Archer was on the first floor and I went upstairs. So the signal strength on this is much better and much wider. It does have 7 antenna on it. It's 4x4 MU-MIMO. So I like this router a lot. It's pretty good. Under $100. Quality router, good speed. I think it's definitely a good buy. I'm going to post the link to Amazon in my description, and hope you enjoy it. Thanks, guys.